listen to this. There are a lot of people who are married as a result of a situationship. Don't say, well, see, Linnell, don't say that. Let me finish. There are a lot of people who are married as the result of a situationship, and the marriage struggles due to their initial situationship foundation. The only reason they got married is because they had a baby. Imagine that. Let me tell you something, man. I wanted to marry my wife. There were no children involved. I wanted her. And after 9 years of marriage, there are days where I ask myself, why did I marry that woman? Right? And what's very clear is that you made a choice, sir. You weren't pulled into this. You weren't situationed into this. You made a choice. And because of that, it allows me to operate from a very deep place of commitment in the relationship. Does this make sense? I chose this.
Change up the things you see. Open your mind to possibilities. Find your power, passion, and your purpose. You know it's time for you to walk in greatness. Let's murder mediocrity. Slay your goals, live out your dreams. Now, inspirational perspective. Open your mind to a better life. It's time to live a dream. Your purpose now. Inspirational perspective. Let's slay your goals.
Before we get into the content, I feel like it's necessary. For me to just share my overall credibility on this topic and conversation, because I got one email and was like, "Who died and left you as a dating expert?" That was like, and I think they were kind of upset about some of the things I said, in terms of like what I believe works and what doesn't work, which is fine. But yeah, I've been married. Somebody, well, you've been married so long, you out, like, why is what you're saying relevant? It's like, okay, that's fine. I've been married 9 years, going on 10. I've been with my wife for 12. But I think sometimes we forget that people had lives before this. Before I was with one woman, like committed to one woman, I played all these games. And when I say all these games, I mean all of them, from the dating to this, like intentionally putting women in situationships. I'm not proud of it, but I know how it's done because I did it. Because it at the time was convenient for me because I was basically afraid of commitment. And so how do you keep a relationship, situationship going, right? Whatever you want to call it, when you don't want to commit to that person. I was phenomenal at it. And that's one of the reasons I'm sharing now. Now, I've made amends for all that, specifically to those young ladies. I've gone through that process. But at the same time, I know there are people who are still in it, and I want to support you with that. Because situationships, I'll get into this, when they do lead to family, they don't lead to strong families typically. And so we want to operate with intention. Okay. So the other piece I will say in terms of credibility is that one of the ways that I'm blessed to stay relevant is I'm in conversations with clients who are actually going through the dating cycle right now, 2024. So I'm listening to these conversations, to what's happening on both sides, for both men and women. And in listening, not a whole lot's changed. Not a whole lot. It's it's in many ways it's the same old games being played in a new way. And I will say that I think it was easier when I was coming up to play these games than it is now. And I think that's a benefit to anyone who's serious because of the internet, because of social media. If you intend to be in a serious relationship, I believe that you can use those tools to ensure that the person that you are dating is who they say they are. Because, I mean, when I was coming up, you didn't have that. I mean, I could be like, I'm an astronaut. And it's like, well, really? That's amazing. Right? It's like, now you can cross-check things. I don't know if it was that bad, but y'all get my point, right? And so that's the beauty of where we are now. And, I think one red flag would be a man who is completely, and by the way, it's not a complete red flag. Not complete, but a man who is just not on social media at all. Like, to me, it's like, it's a bit of a red flag. Let me say this for two reasons. And I'll get into this in a bit more. Most of the brothers I know who don't really dabble in social media a whole lot, part of it is because they don't want the accountability that it creates if you're single and you're dating. Like, it creates, like, you going to tag me in that photo? Those kind of things. This is better not to have an account, right? And we'll walk into this later. The other reason why is because a man with purpose is looking to make impact. And in 2024, in the 21st century, one of the number one ways to make impact in your work, in your mission, is by using these channels to broaden your message, right? So to me, it's an indication, one, that the brother doesn't have purpose. So that's one red flag, right? Because he's not trying to get a message out. He's not, saying anything. He's not, connecting with anybody in that way, like to further something in the world. And then two, like, if he's like, nah, I don't really do that. And it's like, well, what business are you in? Like, what are you like? Are you even competent in this area? So then it's like another bit of a red flag because, like, how are you moving nowadays without it? Now, I'm speaking to more about younger men. If he's 50 or over, I could see why he may not have social media. So for my mature audience, don't, start running and saying Linnell said. But for a younger audience, in terms of young people, just something to watch out for. So what is a situationship? So what I believe a situationship is a romantic relationship between two people that is undefined and typically lacks commitment, even if intimacy is involved. Like, so, and most of the time I think intimacy is involved in a situationship. Otherwise, you're really not in a situation. Like, you're kind of courting or dating, right? But it becomes a situationship because you kind of cross over into the relationship realm without being in relationship. And that's, the fastest way to create a situationship is just moving too fast sexually. And then getting caught up in the sex, in my opinion. Now, a situationship can also be caused by a lack of clarity regarding the future direction of the relationship. So one of the things that I've encountered is someone who has been in a relationship, like a committed relationship, and then when commitment is brought up, it leads to a breakup. And, now maybe it's 4 weeks, 6 weeks, you all get back together, but it's kind of like, well, I don't know where the future, like what's happening in the future. We're together, and I'm even afraid because I brought up commitment, and this can happen on the woman's side or the man's side. I'm afraid because I brought up commitment and it led to a breakup. Now I'm afraid to talk about the future of the relationship. And what happens is the person who broke up with that individual, like they gain control of the relationship. And one of the things I believe is in every situationship, there is one person who's clear. There's one person who's clear and there's one person who's not. And you got to ask yourself, which are you? And even if you're like, well, I'm not clear, even if that other person is gaslighting you to make you believe they're not clear, they're like, I don't know what's going on. Somebody knows what's going on. Like somebody's very clear about where they intend to take that relationship, which, by the way, can be absolutely nowhere. Like if I can just kick this can another year, if I can kick this can another few months, that's what leads to a situationship. And so when you're in a situationship, I think it's the type of situation that is typically due to a friendship and romantic involvement becoming intertwined. Like, I'm always, whenever I hear about situationships, I'm like, how did it start? And typically it's like, oh, they were super cool. Something happened or drinks were involved. And now I find myself tethered to this individual with no real clarity about what's going on in the relationship. Another way I like to say it is that situationships are basically romantic ambiguity. And I mean, think about romantic ambiguity seems like an oxymoron. It sounds like a recipe for anxiety. Romantic ambiguity. And because you're not clear, like a lack of clarity leads to anxiety. And that's typically what ends up happening if you're in a situationship. Now, if you think you're in a situationship, you want some support, give me a phone call, 773-591-1690. If you got questions, like, give me a call. Like, let's figure it out together. If you're actually in a situationship, you don't want to put yourself on blast, change your name to Jane or Joe. And we're okay with that. We are with that, Titus? All right, cool. Real quick, let me check in. You brothers feel like I described a situationship. Is there anything you all would add to a situationship? I'm sure, like me, we've all been in them. Go ahead.
I think you summed it up perfectly. I think you hit the nail on the coffin with that one.
Okay, cool. What about you, Ade? Same? Okay. All right. These are the 7 ways for you to know if you are actually in a situationship. Listen up real close, because there may be someone out there who was like, that's not me. And then you hear one of these 7 and you're like, wait a second. Maybe it is. Maybe it is me. So here are the 7 ways for you to know if you are in a situationship. Number 1, you all don't make future plans together. Like if you're not making future plans together, I mean, it's very simple. Like Thanksgiving's coming, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Christmas is coming. It's like, what are you doing on Thanksgiving? If it's like, if the person goes mute, you're in a situationship.
Yep.
Like, hey, what are we doing for Christmas? Huh? If the person goes mute, you're in a situationship.
That's about right.
Yeah. I mean, you're making plans together. When my wife and I first started dating, like, it didn't take long for us to start being like, so how does Thanksgiving go for you? Right? We were very clear about where we were looking to go. How does Thanksgiving go for you? How does Thanksgiving go for you? You think I should come over there? Yeah, like we were making future plans. Whether we decided to be in the same space or not, it was planned. It was planned. And both people's desires were addressed, not one person's, right? Both people like, well, I mean, I really would like to meet your family. It's like, no, it's a whole lot going on right now. Like, it's like her desires, like, it's like, if your desires aren't addressed, like, well, I would like for you to meet my family. I don't know if the time is good. Like, if they really do, but Thanksgiving's not the right time, then you'll meet them like the next week or you'll meet them the week before, right? Like something will be created in Keyword, planned. Okay? Planned. All right. So if you all don't make plans together, very likely that you are in a situationship. Okay? That's number one. Number two, inconsistent communication. Inconsistent communication. If you don't know when you're going to hear from this person, you're in a situationship. Like if the whole weekend is going by and you've been sitting by your phone. You ever had that? You're like, man, is she going to text me back? Call me back? You call like Wednesday to set up something for Friday. Nothing. Crickets. Right? Then you text on Thursday, like, hey, what are you doing this weekend? Crickets. Nothing. Right? Nothing. Friday, maybe another text. You don't want to be, overbearing. You don't want to seem needy. Right? And by the way, this is how, people get gaslit. It's like, you're so needy. It's kind of like, well, no. Like, we do have something going on, and an entire weekend went by without you communicating with me. Well, what happened was, it's like, if you can't get in communication with the person that you're possibly in relationship with or being intimate with, you're in a situationship. That's number two. Okay. Number three, you feel like you all need to communicate about the status of the relationship. Like you feel like kind of like, what are we doing? What are we doing right now? Like, are we? Somebody called and just hung up. I think number two might have hit it. Like, oh, okay, I'm in a situationship. Otherwise, give me a phone call back. But you feel like you need, like, are we together? Like, if you're not clear about what's happening, with someone that you are intimate with, like you all share a bed, maybe not every day, but sometimes, and you're not really clear what's going on, that's a situationship. Like, that's a situationship. Like, you're like, I feel like I need, like, are you my woman? Like, are we together? And by the way, people who are good at navigating situationships, they know exactly what to say. Right? So, like, if you say you're a guy and you're like, maybe it's that morning and you all are getting ready for work and, you're putting on your clothes or you're waiting on the Uber and you're like, hey, you my lady? You here, ain't you? It's a yes or no question. That's a yes or no question. Yes, I'm your lady. Are you my man? Like, yes. You here, aren't you? It's like, yeah, I know that. I knew that when I asked the question. Like, don't let some, people like, that's a situationship. And by the way, if you're not clear, best believe they're clear. They're clear that it's a situationship, and they're likely moving in that way, right? It's like, all right, okay, that's number three. Number four, I think this one is a gimme, but, I don't know that it's always that clear. But number four is the relationship is private. Nobody really knows. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe a few people know y'all kick it. Like, and if somebody say we kicking it, that doesn't mean you're their boyfriend or you're their girlfriend. It's like, that's a situationship. We kicking it, that's a situationship, right? And so, like, if the relationship is private, nobody can know, you're in a situationship, unfortunately. Now, folks laughing. I mean, you just gotta be thought. We all been there. I've been there. Well, like, hey, what we doing? Like, I know the one you here, aren't you? Because that's happened to me. Like, hey,
yeah, that's happened to me.
Yeah, hey, what's going on, man? I'm feeling you. Like, what, we spent the weekend. They're like, what's happening? You here, ain't you? You here? It's kind of like, that's not an answer. Like, what is going on? I would say drive for clarity. Drive for clarity. And by the way, one of the reasons we don't drive for clarity is because we're insecure and we don't want to lose that individual. But what we're not thinking about is ourselves and the impact to us. That's one of the reasons why one of the number one ways to prepare for a loving relationship is self-love. Like, you've got to love yourself enough to walk away. Like, you know what? I'm not doing it. I feel disrespected. I'm not doing it. Okay. Number 5, little to no outdoor dates. I've heard this one before. So what's going on with you all? I don't know, but I see him all the time. Where? Where do you see him? Do you see him at the mall as you all walk together hand in hand? Probably not, right? Do you see her at the movies where you all sit together? By the way, the movies are a great place for a situationship date because it's dark. It's like, and by the way, like, a masterful way to do it is like, hey, we run a little bit behind for work, but I got the tickets. Here's your seat. I'll see you in there. Oh, yeah. Now, I've done that to my wife, but she's my wife. You get where I'm going? Like, when we walked out together, right? If he always got to use the bathroom coming out the movies, like, hey, I'm just going to meet you up front. You in a situationship, right? Or he got 2 relationships, or she has, like, I can't be seen with you. All right, if you ain't going outdoors together, now somebody's like, don't people know this? And it's like, here's the thing. This is very common sense to anyone who is not sexually tethered to somebody. But when you are sexually involved, you lose your common sense. Which is why it's so important not to jump into bed so quickly. You actually lose your common sense. And you will fall, because somebody right now is listening to this like, it would never be me. And to make sure that is true, you want to hold your boundary on sex. Otherwise, and men too, right? Because Titus said you've been done like this before, where you kind of like, what's going on? Yeah. What's going? Like, it can happen to a man too, right? We think we saw, and the next thing you know, you like, man, hey, what's happening? Well, I wanna, like, just, meet me in my house at 7. We could go for drinks before that. Now just meet me at my house. It's like little to no outdoor dates. Okay. Number 6, you feel insecure in the relationship. And this one could be like, you could be in a real relationship that is committed, boyfriend and girlfriend. I'm not talking about that where the person said, like, you're my girlfriend or you're my boyfriend, right? And it's like, okay, I feel insecure because maybe communication, like, relationships go through ups and downs, right? Through cycles. I'm not talking about that. If you're very clear about your label with that person, and by the way, y'all be outside. That's a big one. Y'all be outside together, okay? I'm not talking about you, because you can feel insecure in a relationship. You can feel insecure in a marriage at any given time based on what's happening in that marriage. Like, communication is not right, whatever. I'm talking, you feel insecure in the relationship, and part of the insecurity is a lack of clarity. A lack of clarity. Now, you're probably insecure for a really good reason. Now, and here's the thing, and I'm going to speak to this a little bit, because this is the danger of situationships. Some people might think they're harmless. It's cool. We're both clear, Linnell. I know what's going on. And it's like, you could be the perpetrator of the situationship, where I want this to happen, and both of you all know, let that person find somebody else and see how big and bad you are. It's like, no, we said we weren't committed, and I've been dating this individual. I like them, and so this is what I'm going to do, is watch how fast you fall into insecurity. What? Wow. Partly because you've been sexing this individual. So now you're thinking, like, is she better than me? Or he better than me? Like, you get where I'm going? All these things, it starts messing with you. It's like, man, I thought I had a hold on. So you can go from the perpetrator in a situationship to the insecure party. And what happens is it begins teaching you to be insecure in relationship. And this is one of the reasons we have to guard ourselves, okay? So you feel insecure in the relationship. That's number 6. Number 7, all the things you said, Linnell, like, whatever, it's cool. We go out, like, we be hanging out with people, I'm not sure what's going on, but, I think, okay, we must not be in a situationship. Okay, no PDA. You can't hold his hand, though. When y'all around all them friends, you can't touch them. You can't lean on them, right? You can't. It's like be like, no. When y'all walk out the house, you have a whole new way. Both of y'all have a whole new way of being. Like nobody would know. They just be like, oh, they always hang out, But y'all act like ain't nothing happening. You in a situationship, no PDA. You're in a situationship. And by the way, there are married couples who are like, they both are kind of like with the PDA, maybe not so much, whatever. But there is a very clear-cut commitment that is in place. If there's no clear-cut commitment and there's no PDA, you're in a situationship. All right? And that's part of what I believe makes relationship complicated. It's complicated, typically comes from all of that. Okay. Why are situationships dangerous? How do they happen? I want you all to really listen to me on this. Like, this is how they happen. Situationships happen because you follow your feelings versus your commitment to yourself. That's why. You follow your feelings versus your commitment to yourself. This is how situationships happen. It's that simple. No one can betray you unless you betray yourself first. Like that's, you get where I'm going? In a situation like this, now if you're in a marriage and you get betrayed, I'm not talking about committed relationship. But if you're not in a committed relationship, that person cannot betray you unless you betrayed yourself first. You did it. You did it. How I say this too in my workshops when I'm talking about goal setting and things like that. One of the things I say is how I feel is very real. One of the main reasons people don't accomplish goals is because they give in to what they feel. I feel tired. But you committed to something, right? I feel confused. But you committed to something. Push through until you're clear. I feel. What you feel seems very real, right? Emotions can cloud clarity. And this is why you must have a very clear commitment to yourself. One of the ways a situationship can happen is I ain't ran into no good man. This guy is phenomenal. We've been on 3 dates. Everything seems great. And now he wants physical contact. I don't want to lose him. Okay, so you're going to betray yourself. But how I feel, this feels right. This feels good. This feels like it's it. And it's like, it's not it until the other person says this is it. It ain't based on your feelings. It's based on very clear communication. It's that simple, right? And what I'm afraid of is we get caught up in feelings and then we completely betray ourselves by betraying the commitment that we've made to ourselves. The other reason people end up in situationships is because they end up following short-term desire versus long-term need. I really want y'all to follow me on this, because this is the main reason I believe people aren't successful. You get where I'm going? It's the same reason many people aren't successful in life are also the reasons they're not successful in relationships. Because I have a tendency to go for my short-term desires versus my long-term needs. All you have to do is insert finances here. Like, I would imagine how your relationship with money might be very close to how you do relationship. That's something to sit with. You might want to journal on that one, like write that one down. Like, your relationship with money, because if your short-term desires rule you in your finances versus long-term needs, it's likely you got a weak muscle with desire, which means that when it comes to relationship and the opposite sex, the same thing happens all the time to you too. Short-term desire trumps long-term need. Why do I always end up here? It's like, well, short-term desire trumped the long-term need. What is the long-term need? The long-term need of every human being is to feel needed in a committed relationship. We are social beings. If you think you can rock by yourself, you are mistaken. Listen to me very closely on this. There are a lot of people who are married, or baby mamas, baby daddies, right? Who are married. Listen to this. There are a lot of people who are married as a result of a situationship. Don't say, well, see, Linnell, don't say that. Let me finish. There are a lot of people who are married as the result of a situationship, and the marriage struggles due to their initial situationship foundation. The only reason they got married is because they had a baby. Imagine that. Let me tell you something, man. I wanted to marry my wife. There were no children involved. I wanted her. And after 9 years of marriage, there are days where I ask myself, why did I marry that woman? Right? And what's very clear is that you made a choice, sir. You weren't pulled into this. You weren't situationed into this. You made a choice. And because of that, it allows me to operate from a very deep place of commitment in the relationship. Does this make sense? I chose this. I didn't get finagled into it. She didn't get pregnant and then I felt like it was the right thing to do. Because if when I ask myself, and every man will, and every woman will, in a marriage, and for my married folks on Facebook, give me some hearts on that. Like, don't leave me out here. You get where I'm going? This is real talk, because marriage is dynamic, right? There are times where my wife and I is like, apart, doing life apart. Are you kidding me? Like, I could never. Oh, I love you so much. I mean, it's just like, and then other times it's like, I could do life without you. I don't need this. You get where I'm going? Which, by the way, is a farce. It's a feeling. It's a feeling, right? Go back to, feelings again. Like, am I letting my feelings dictate? I just feel that way because of a conversation. I feel that way because of an argument. I feel that way because of a disagreement. But imagine if you don't have the real foundation of commitment behind the relationship, and now you're in a marriage, and the reason you got married is because of a child. The reason you got married is because of a situationship. The reason you got married is because the pandemic hit, and it just made more sense to live together. And then when times get tough, you think you're going to really push it out. The last thing you want is to get into a situationship that has to work because of the things that happen in the situationship that forced y'all to be together. It's the last thing you want. Over the break, got a question about situationships. And the question was, is friends with benefits in the same category as situationships? What do you all say? Yeah, okay. Already got plenty of yeses from men in the stream already. Yeah, so all right, that's pretty synonymous. I mean, it's yes, friends with benefits. And I think friends with benefits is like it starts off, but I mean, that was the definition I gave for situationship is like typically it can start with some relationship intact. And friendship is a great way for that gets intertwined. A friendship that gets intertwined with intimacy is a great way for a situationship to start. And it might seem good. And here's what I would say. If you happen to wake up next to your friend, right? No, this is real talk, right? If you happen to wake up next to your friend, it don't take, like y'all been friends for a while. Like either y'all gonna be together or you're not. You know this person. You don't got to date this person. You know them. You know how they are. You know how they get down. Like, it's like, okay, well, look at us, huh? Like, I would go to breakfast and hash it out. What we gonna do here? You know what I'm saying? Because that can't happen again unless we're together, right? It's like, and by the way, we're human beings, adults. Could something like that happen? Yes. The situationship happens when you don't drive clarity. And if that's your friend, I would say let's go to breakfast. What are we doing here? Well, we had to go to work that day. Then go to dinner. You know what I mean? Like, what just happened and what are we going to do about it? Never can happen again. Or, man, I do like you and I'm kind of happy it happened. And so let's make something. All right, cool. Now we in a committed relationship that's going for something romantic. Everybody's clear. We can walk outside holding hands. And if our friends see us, we can be like, it happened. It's all good, right? It's no secret. Not a secret. Okay. Let me say a couple of things before I get into the tips real quick. Ladies, this is to ladies because I'm going to talk to men in a moment. Keep that in mind. Contextually, I'm talking to men. Like, because people they get mad at me. Like I'm talking to the men in a moment. But ladies, I'm talking to you right now. Force the men who approach you to prove they have the courage to care for you and the family. Let me say it again. Force the men who approach you to prove to you they have the courage it takes to care for you and a family. Until he proves that, set boundaries. Set boundaries. Okay? Now, this is to everyone. As I go into these 5 tips, there's a few things that I want to share. I just want to put out there in terms of dating. I got a comment last week. Somebody was like, dating's not in the Bible. Why are you teaching on dating? And I'm like, hey, look, there's a thing called social constructs that we have to address, okay? And dating is a social construct in the 21st century. And I don't know how a young person is going to get up with somebody or get married if they don't go through a dating/courting process, all right? So it's got to be taught about. We got to teach on it. Okay. Number 1, date prayerfully. Like, because one of the things is like, how do you know? I get a lot of questions. How do you know if ... How do you know if There are some things about a person you are not going to know in the dating process. This is why you have to date carefully. I'll give you a perfect example. I remember my wife and I got married in Negril, Jamaica. I remember we flew in. We got married on a Saturday. We flew in on a Tuesday. Okay. I remember that Tuesday evening in Negril on the beach having dinner with my soon-to-be wife. I learned that she was deathly afraid of cats. At that point, we've been together almost 2 years. What do you mean? No, over 2 years. We have been together over 2 years at this point. I didn't know that. I found out the week we were going to get married. This lady almost stood up on the chair when she saw the cat coming. And it freaked me out, not because of the cat, because I was like, what else don't I know? That's not a big deal. I can still marry you. But what else don't I know? We've been together over 2 years. What else don't I know? And guess what? I found out. And I continue to find out. Now, does it matter? No, I'm still with her. But I dated prayerfully. I was like, reveal to me the things I need to see. The Creator didn't reveal that she was deathly afraid of cats because it didn't matter. It didn't matter to the marriage. You get where I'm going? But I didn't know. I was like, you afraid of cats? How do I not know you afraid? We never encountered a cat in 2 years, almost 2.5. I didn't know that. I didn't know you was going to react that way. It kind of freaked me out going into the wedding. Like, man, I don't know everything about this woman. You won't. That's why we date prayerfully. Number 2, date with clarity. As long as you know what's going on. I got a question this week from a client of mine who was like, well, hey, I've been telling men that I'm dating other men, and they don't seem to like that. And I'm like, that's none of their business because you're just dating. You can be clear. Be clear about what's going on. When they say, hey, will you be my girlfriend? Will you be my, then at that point you got to, okay. And by the way, dating without intimacy. Right? Dating without intimacy. And brothers, you can't be so insecure that there's a woman that you're dating and you ain't even on the third date and you find out she went out with somebody else or you bump into her. That don't disqualify her. If anything, if she chooses you, you know she's clear. Like, we got to stop being like, oh my, what? It's like, if she's just dating, what's the big deal? You're dating. I would think that you're dating more than one person. And when I say dating, I'm not talking about in relationship. I'm talking about the courting process, like getting to know somebody. And I firmly believe that if you have 3 good dates, this is Linnell's opinion, but if you have 3 good dates, then you kind of know if you want to date that person exclusively. Like you can, and there comes a point where you do need to narrow your focus to say, and when I say date that person exclusively, I ain't saying you got to sleep with them. You ain't sleeping with them, but you're now, you know what? I like going out with you. There's something to investigate here. And so let me get clear. I don't want to confuse a conversation I had with someone else with you. Now I'm going to kind of, but in the first date, second date, third date, though, maybe, like we dating each other now. So date with clarity. A lack of clarity creates anxiety. And what I would say, something my wife and I did, is I think it was by the second date, we agreed no games. You know what? I like you. I'm going to be straight with you. If you ask me a question, I'm going to give you a straight answer. And vice versa. And so, do you think we can do that? Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And we were just straight. Wasn't no games, wasn't no, it was like, I like you. I see promise here. Let's just be clear with one another. All right? And I would say in dating, request clarity, okay? For the brothers, if you are serious about finding your mate, provide clarity as a courtesy. You don't have to, but just as a courtesy. This as a courtesy, provide clarity. Hey, this is our second date. I really like you. I hope that we get a third. And if she's like, are you dating somebody else? Excuse me. Be like, well, right now, yeah, but if I can go out with you again and it's as good as it was, I'm only thinking about dating you at that point. Like, date with clarity. Be grown. Like we all, be grown. Like be a man. Okay. Once again, this is not a shortcut formula, but it will work. Okay. So I believe that we have officially moved into cuffing season. Is that correct? Yeah. Yeah. Is it safe to say that we are now in cuffing season?
That's time.
Yeah. All right. Now, Idea, Titus, can you all define for the audience who's like, what is cuffing season? Can one of you define what cuffing season is?
Sure. Cuffing season.
Hold on 1 second,
when
Titus.
it starts
Hold on.
to get cold
All right, go
outside
ahead.
and people start to feel a little bit lonely. So they want somebody to basically be in their lives in the dating process throughout these cold months and holiday seasons. So they call it the cuff because they're literally trying to bring somebody into the mix of their dating life.
Okay. Now, the challenge of being in cuffing season is we don't know if a person wants to commit for the winter or commit long term. That's the challenge of cuffing season. Okay. Also, I would say though, for men, and I'm talking to men now, the beauty of cuffing season is that over the summer, the same young ladies that were walking in their sundresses like, right? No. Now might be like, what? It's getting cold. They had to put the hoodie on. I don't want to be by myself all winter. What you talking about? Like, what? Right? So this is a great time to be assertive. Would you all agree?
I definitely agree to that one.
Yeah, it's a great time, men, to be assertive. Like, it's a great time. It's cuffing season. It's kind of in the air. One of the things we talked about is, like, moving with the vibration and the frequency. Is like, I don't care how fine she is. She don't want to be by herself all winter. She doesn't want to go into another Christmas where her aunts are saying, girl, why are you so pretty? Why you by yourself? Like, she does not want another Christmas of that. Okay? So, like, this is your time to shoot your shot. This is the time. Like, in the summer, it's tough. It's out here, she like, this the third man, and it's not even noon. It's like, it's summer's a tough time to shoot your shot. But when it started getting cold and the jackets come out, it's really good. So here are my tips for men as we go into cuffing season, okay? And we're talking about serious dating. All right, serious dating. Number 1, have a 3-date plan. Have a 3-date plan. Brothers, be clear and be prepared. And this is how you take the lead, okay? And there's no woman out here right now who disagrees with me. I can guarantee you they're shaking their heads like, yes, have a plan, have a plan, have a plan, okay? Like before she says yes, before you shoot your shot, you should be thinking about when I get the date, here is what I'm going to do.
And you know how true that is. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and she was saying, we were talking about dating and process because we're both single, and she was talking about having a plan. I want you to plan out the day. I don't want to just go on a date. I want to go on an experience. I want to remember this, and I want to evaluate the day afterwards to see if we can go on a second one. And I'm like, that makes total sense.
Yeah, have a plan. And here's the thing. You don't even got to have a lot of money. You could scope out, and when I say have a plan, be strategic. You could scope out, what's the spot over here, the Riverwalk?
Yep.
You could scope out a coffee shop on the Riverwalk. Be like, okay, that's nice. That's nice. So then you can be like, hey, meet me downtown. Or you can pick her up. You can already have your cheap parking plan. You done scoped out where you can park. You get where I'm going? Like, you can have, Have a plan. Have a plan. You pull into the parking lot, the attendant already, what's up, bro? He already know you because you done scoped them out. You done asked, how much this costs, man? You know, like, hey, if I'm 3 hours, 4 hours, you know, I'm dating on the budget. You already kind of know. You know, you park your car. It's not a long walk. You tell her not to wear heels because you know she's going to walk. You're very clear. Have a plan. Hey, when we go out Friday, I want to take you to a little spot. You know, you could dress nice, but make sure you wear some shoes that you feel comfortable in, like walking, because we're going to do a little walking. Right? So now you're trying to take on a long walk in heels. It's like, bro, you didn't think about it. You didn't. These are, and by the way, these are things that kill the first date, because it's like a woman wants a man who she feels is somewhat considerate. Right? And so now you're going to take me walking and I got my stilettos on. I mean, I dressed up nice for you. I thought we were riding. Now we walking. It's like, what's going on? Like, let her know. You can even say, if you want to bring heels, you can, but just make sure you throw some flip flops in the car. I can run back and get them for you. You know, be thoughtful, be considerate, because you have a plan. You know exactly how you intend for the evening to go or the afternoon to go. You know exactly what it looks like. All the way down to after we have our little lakefront walk, then they got the Italian ices over here. I mean, like, you know, she likes ices. I'm going to get her an icy, and then we can eat the ices walking back. And then when we get back to the car, if she wants to continue to date, I got my drink spot. If she's like, oh, I had a nice time, I got to get home, doesn't mean it was a bad date. I just got to get home, then I'll take her home. But if she wants to continue, I got my plan B, my little drink spot, whatever it might be. You get where I'm going? And by the way, I actually suggest no alcohol. You get where I'm going? So if it's a drink spot, maybe it should be another little coffee spot, or, you know, if you guys have a drink, like one drink where you just sit and chat and things like that. Okay? Be prepared and take the lead. Be assertive. You know, be like, hey, you know, I like to take you out. If she accepts, be like, okay, here's how it's going to go. I'm going to pick you up at 7. You need to wear this. Make sure you bring some shoes you can walk in. I don't care if you wear gym shoes. I think you look good either way, right? You can give her a little compliment. You know where I'm going? Like, and this is how the evening's going to go. I promise you, women love that. I promise you. Okay? All right. That's number 1. Number 2, brothers, give me a phone call if you have questions. This is your chance. Like 59773-591-1690. Brothers, call me if you have a question. Okay? Number 2, have your first date questions and conversation prepared. Like, have some talking points. Don't be weird. You know? So you got the whole plan, and then you get in the car and it's just quiet. Or here's another thing men do, like, you know, you want to show off the system in your car. I promise you, she does not care how loud the music can get. I promise you, she does not care. Let me say it again. I promise you, she does not care how loud your music can be. Do not take a woman out and pull up and put her in your car and then turn on your music super loud driving down the street. Like, what are you doing, sir? This is your time to talk. This is your time to talk. Set the mood. Didn't I talk about Teddy? I mean, not Teddy, Luther, not too long ago. You know, can I take you out? Like, have a little soundtrack. Be prepared. Have a soundtrack in the car. The drive is 20 minutes. Every song should be planned. You get where I'm going? It's in the background. You know, got it down a little bit. How was your day? Yeah, you know, how was everything at work today? You know, start off light. You know, then you might get into some questions around. At this point, if you're taking her out, by the way, you know she meets your non-negotiables. Like, that happens on the phone before you ask her out. So now you're just going through conditional standards. You might be driving past the gym and be like, hey, you work out? Like, you know, you might even drive her past your gym and say, you know, that's where I work out at. You work out? That was one of mine. I wanted a woman who was fit. You know, it's one of the questions I asked. You work out? But have your first date questions and your conversation prepared. Not that you got to look at it, but just like, mental notes. Now, brothers, don't show off. This is a hard one. Don't show off on the first date, on the second date. Don't, like, should your car be clean? 100%. Should it be vacuumed? 100%. Should you be dressed well? 100%. What do I mean by showing off? Y'all want to help me on this? What do I mean by showing off?
I need a little clarity myself.
You need some clarity? Okay. This is how men show off. Like, one was turning up the music real loud. Like, it's like you got the best system. She doesn't care. I promise you she does not care. Okay? Some of y'all got LEDs on the car. Like, turn them off. Now, don't pull up to her house with the LEDs going back and forth on the side of the car. Turn them off. Like, she doesn't care. She doesn't need to see all that. Your boys might be like, yo, that's dope, man. She doesn't care, I promise you. She might not even know what car it is. Some of them will, some of them won't. She'll be like, it was clean. That's all she cares. Get where I'm going? Here's another way we show off. Oh, yeah. This building here, I did this and this and that over here. Oh, my boy works right there. This and that's one of my clients over there. It's like, that's how we show off.
Yeah, I've done that.
You get what I'm going?
Yeah, I get what you're going.
It's really, not necessary. Yeah. It's not necessary. It's going, comes off a little egotistical. Here's the other thing. Don't talk about money. Yeah. Don't talk about money. It's like, do I have to say more, or do we get it?
No, I gotta get that.
Yeah. Y'all get it? Yeah. Okay. We don't know if you, especially for those who have it, like, don't talk about your money. And by the way, for two reasons. One is to protect yourself. One is simply, brother, to protect you. The same brother who talks about the money and all that would then be like, man, I feel like women only want me for my money. Well, that's how you lead. Yeah. You get where I'm going? That's how you lead. So then what? And I would even suggest, brother, if you got two cars, like you got the little sports car that's really nice, and then you got the pickup truck, first date pickup truck. She don't need to know what you're working, everything you're working with. She'll need to know. Let her be on the fourth day. Let her be like, what? Like, well, you said you want to date exclusively, so I pulled up in Betsy. You get where I'm going? Like, like, don't reveal your whole hand right away. It's like, one of my cousins, he's got the Benz and he's got the Ram. You know what I mean? He's single. He's like, man, I don't take no, it's like he pulls up in the Ram truck. It's like, and it's a nice truck. If that's a problem, then you kind of know what you're dealing with. This is what you driving. It's like, oh, okay, this is going to be the only date. Because I know what you're after. A lot of times we get taken advantage of because we play ourselves. All right. Number 2, have your first date questions and conversation prepared. Here's the other thing about that. Let her talk. Yeah. I know you're excited to get her out. I know you feel like you need to make sure she knows that you're a quality guy. Well, she probably wouldn't have accepted the date if she didn't think you were a quality guy. So now you just got to trust that she knows and thinks you're a quality guy. You don't got to convince her. She wouldn't have gotten in the car with you, sir, if she didn't think you were a halfway quality guy. You get where I'm going? Like, she wouldn't show it up at the coffee shop if she didn't think you were a halfway quality guy. So now it's time to find out what's going on with her. And she's going to ask questions because women ask questions, right? So she's going to ask you questions. You don't have to think about what you're going to say. You should be thinking about the questions you're going to ask her. And when you ask, let her talk. Just be quiet and let her talk. I promise you. In psychology, one of the things they talk about is how to get people to like you. One of the ways you get people to like you, one is mirroring, right? So body language, you mirror their body language. The other one is you just listen. People love talking about themselves. If you let her talk about herself the entire date, I promise you she's going to go home and say, that date was amazing. It was amazing. Oh, my God, he's such a good listener. Oh, my goodness. Like, it's just so, I can't wait to see him again. Like,
I would throw in a little monkey wrench to that, too, as well, as when
that?
you're talking to her, pay attention to what she's saying. Because they also pick back up on what you're saying, and they always ask questions, like you said, of saying, you know, do you understand what I'm just talking about, or do they want your opinion? How do you feel?
Pay attention.
So listening and actually talking and knowing what they're talking about is very pivotal.
Yeah, listen. And by the way, if you're not listening to her, it's a sign you don't like her. So then don't take her out again. Like if, you know, because by the way, the first date, it could be like, ooh, now she's talking, and you're like, man, is that the Lamborghini truck I went by? Right, you ain't even, like, you get what I'm going? Like, you just not, like, okay, I like how he rapped that. You know, like, if it's a sign you don't like her. Just, yeah, you know, I would say don't take her out again. Yeah. You know, okay. Number 3, be a gentleman. Be a gentleman. A gentleman pays. Be a gentleman. Hey, man, I know some brothers right now just tightened up on me. You know, here he go. Man, you planned the date already. So if you plan it properly, you get to pay within your budget. Pay. And I think you're foolish if you ask her what you want to eat, where you want to go. I'm not. Are you kidding me? No, we're going to go where I think we will have the best date. We're going to go where I think, I might ask her, there are foods you don't eat, right? If you're gonna like me, second date, now we're going to a restaurant, because I actually don't really. I'm saying this and it's hypocritical because I took my wife to a restaurant on the first date. I did, okay? I took her to a restaurant on the first date. But I started to realize I wasn't going to get this woman out unless I fed her. Like, because she kept saying no to a date. I tried coffee. She wasn't going for the coffee shop. Hey, let's have coffee and do the no. Right? I was like, okay. So finally I was like, you know, hey, let me, you know, take you to dinner tonight. You know, she called. Actually, I asked her. She's like, you know, and then the next morning she called me and said, I'm free tonight. And I said, well, I'll take you to dinner then. Because I knew going to coffee shop, she had turned down a coffee shop too many times. I was like, let me take you to dinner. Our first date was at Sunda over there. Is it still open? I think Sunda's still open.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. You know, and that was within my budget. It was, you know, I knew how much valet was, all of that. I knew I was going to valet. Yeah. I knew how it was going to go down. I was very clear. You get where I'm going? Very, very clear. Okay? I think I might even give him a few extra dollars to keep the car up front. I thought that would be impressive. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was a little show-offish. It was, I mean, I'm breaking my own rule. It was a little show-offish, but, you know, it's cool. It worked. It did work. Okay. All right. So here's the other thing. If you have a plan and then she begins to disrupt your plan, where we going? Oh, well, you know, this is a little coffee shop over here on Riverwalk that I thought would be really nice. I don't want to do that. Take me somewhere to eat. Sir, you are actually learning what you're going to be dealing with if you get into a serious relationship. Okay? Like, you're going to be learning Riverwalk. I don't want to do that. Okay. Well, should we turn back around? Like at that point, I'm serious. The other thing, man, we have to be willing to let it go. It's fresh. It's new. Respectfully, with courtesy. Hey, you know what? I had a nice evening plan, but I really didn't prepare to take you to dinner. So, you know, and now, mind you, you should tell her to eat. That's why you eat. If it's an evening and we're not eating, you should tell her to eat first. Hey, make sure you get something to eat because we're going to do, this is why you're prepared, right? But if it's an afternoon on a Saturday and it's like, you know, tell her, hey, make sure you have a good breakfast because I'm going to walk you. You get where I'm going? You know, and now we're going to the coffee shop on the Riverwalk. I don't even know if there's a coffee shop on the Riverwalk. Hey, y'all look it up. Don't follow my pattern here and then be looking for a coffee shop with the young lady. Like, Linnell Harris said it was here. It's like, I don't know. I'm just making it up. Okay, all right. Do your research. But, hey, look out for the red flags. If she can't allow you to lead the first date, the second date, the third date, it's a red flag. Now she gonna tell, like, you know, so I don't do this and that, and I need you to take me here. And if we gonna go to dinner, then it's gotta be on the Gold Coast. It's kind of like, really? Is that where you eat all the time? Is that the only place that you eat? Because you get where I'm going, like, it's a sign.
I was just about to ask you about that because you know that whole thing last year with the don't do the Cheesecake Factory. These are the restaurants.
It's foolishness
type thing. 5-star restaurants, and you're dating somebody for the first time.
Foolishness. It's foolishness.
You brought that up at the perfect time.
Yeah, it's foolishness. Now, if they say, "Hey, I have certain dating, I have certain eating restrictions. I don't know if there's anything here that I can eat." That's different. You get where I'm going? But otherwise, like, I don't do Cheesecake Factory. It's like, we're just getting to know each other. Like, at some point, how do we just get to know each other? Like, there's been dates back when I was dating where we went to a little hot dog spot on the corner and sat down and had a hot dog and got to know each other. You know, like, we getting to know each other. And then we're walking up north, like, just getting to know each other. That's that. So, and for the ladies listening, like, notice, like, acting funny about if you don't eat hot dogs, then say that. But notice acting funny about someone who's just trying to get to know you. That's the point of the first date, not to be fed cuisine, but to get to know the person. Okay. So pay, because you already got it planned out. Be chivalrous. And not overboard, you know what I mean? But with taste. Be chivalrous. Where you can open doors, open doors. Where you can defer to her, defer to her.
What do you mean by overboard?
Overboard could be, like you're running in front of her. It's like weird. Don't be weird. You get where I'm going?
No, I get it now.
If someone else has the door open and you guys are walking through, just thank them. Yeah. Nah, I got it, man. I got it. Don't be weird. That's what I mean.
No, that makes sense.
Be chivalrous, but not weird, okay? Because let's be clear, like, we can be weird sometimes. Like, men, we can do weird stuff. Like, I don't need that brother to hold the door for me and my lady. I got it, bro. I got it. It's like,
I'm guilty of that. I've done that before.
Yeah, it's like, let him hold the door. And be like, hey, man, I appreciate you. Matter of fact, let me get the door for you and your lady. Yeah. Don't be weird, okay? This is number 3 still for being a gentleman. Keep your hands to yourself. Keep your hands to yourself. And let me give you a little. You don't got to touch to increase polarity. One of the things I did to my wife, on purpose, by the way, on our first date, is she walked in front of me, and then we were about to walk outside. I think they had like a little section where they had mints, whatever. So she stopped to get a mint. And when she stopped to get a mint, I walked up right behind her. Like, close, but I didn't touch her. Right? But when she went like this, I was right there. She was like, oh. It's like, yeah. I'm right here. I mean, like, I didn't touch her, but it was kind of like, oh. And she was like, oh. I'm like, oh, excuse me, But I ain't touch her. I increased the polarity with just distance in a tasteful way. You get where I'm going? In a very tasteful way. I didn't have to touch her. You get where I'm going? Just tasteful. And I could tell by how she reacted, like, oh. I'm like, okay, yeah, she liked me. She liked me. Because she's like, you're like, okay, there won't be a second date. Right? And I'm not offended. You get to like me or not like me. But there won't be a second date, right? And it's that, unless she's requesting and, hey, I'm sorry I acted like that, then okay, all right, cool. Okay. Number 4, I have to say this specifically. But keep consider keeping alcohol out of your dating plans. I mean, you can go to all types of juice bars. You know where I'm going? Get smoothies and coffee. And I mean, there's so many places, ice cream shops. There's so many places that you can go without getting alcohol involved. Because alcohol typically leads to situationships. And we're trying to stay, like we're dating with intention right now. We're trying to stay free of situationships. So consider, brothers, keeping alcohol out of your dating plans. And here's the other thing. If you take them into a bar, young ladies' radar may go up. Okay, what's going on? Why are you taking me to, it's like no bars, no alcohol. I felt comfortable. I felt in control. She's likely going to love to go out with you again. All right. Number 5.
I got a quick question, though.
Go ahead.
Because once I took a young lady bowling and as a first date so we could get to know each other, talk, and it was an activity. And then they had alcohol involved there at the bar. What do you do in cases like that?
Well, I mean, I think if you grab a beer and she has a drink, it's not a big deal. And, you can learn a lot about a woman when alcohol is present. I think that's a second date, the bowling and all. Me personally, the first date is always like we need to get to know each other. So I think second, third date might be bowling or something like that, like where we get into activities. But, to each his own, but you learn a lot because of now. And by the way, you can't control the budget at the bowling alley with the bar. Right? This is what I'm saying. This is dating with the plan and dating on the budget. If I'm telling you to pay, set it up where you can pay. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's that simple. Set it up where you can pay. Whereas with, once you get a bar involved, like now you can learn her bad habits. And I know for me, one of my non-negotiables was a woman that was an alcoholic. Like, because now I can't trust you if you get drunk all the time because your inhibition, like your decision making is going to be bad. And that decision making could lead to another man. And I ain't trying to deal with that. Well, I was drunk. I don't even want to be in that conversation. Honey, I was drunk. I love you. It's like, yeah, I'm never in that conversation because I didn't marry a woman that drinks. I was very clear. I don't even want to. I have relationships where, they come in and they're like, whoa, how did you get home? I don't know if I want to sign up for this long term. You get where I'm going? So at some point, you might want to see how she interacts with alcohol. But that might be 4th, 5th, 6th date. Now that we're dating more exclusively, it could be the 3rd date. It could be now I'm going to determine this is why we have a plan. All right? You date strategically. Okay. Number 5. Don't talk about your exes. Don't talk about your previous relationship, sir. When she says, so when was your last relationship? A year ago. Period. Yeah. What happened? It didn't work out. Why not? We decided to go separate ways. Yeah. Well, see, what happened was now, 30 minutes later, you'll be like, oh, man, I did it. Right. And she's sitting there like, oh, boy. Like, and then she did this. And man, don't talk about your ex on the first date. Don't talk about your ex on the first date. You would think this is, I'm going to say it one more time. Don't talk about your exes. Because somebody will say, well, he said ex. I'm going to talk about my exes. No, don't talk about your ex or your exes on the first date. Brothers, if you deal with shyness, like, have a game plan. Like, really step into your essence. Like, don't be shy. Okay? Don't be shy. Here's another tip. Be substantive in the conversation by sharing your life vision and purpose. You know, like that's something that a woman is attracted to, a man with purpose. And if she's somebody I coached or she listens to this show, she's going to be asking anyway, right? So already know how you plan to share your life vision and purpose, and use stories. Like, tell her how you have actually done things in alignment with your purpose. Like, tell her a story. Everybody loves a good story. And a story is believable, because there are some BSers out there who listen to the show too, and they be like, I need a purpose. But if they don't have stories that line up, sis, you know he's lying, right? Like, I mean, period, okay? Be substantive. Tether your ego. Like, restrain if you can, okay? And talk about your friends and family and colleagues in a positive light. I know you might have a really, really dramatic sister, okay, who, you know, who's working through some things. Don't talk about that. Yeah, because if you meet my sister, boy, I'm telling you, she's blah, 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 blah. Like, don't talk about that. Like, you're pushing her away. That's going to be her sister-in-law one day. You don't want to tell her all about that. She going to meet her, and then she going to have to make a decision then. Don't tell her about it on the first date, right? Is that fair? And I don't think you're omitting something that's that big of a deal. It's just a sister-in-law. But at least let her like you first. Okay? Okay. So talk about your friends, family, and colleagues at work in a positive light. Man, let me tell you, so at work, stop. Don't do it. Be positive. Be positive. Okay. Here's the last piece. Reach out when you think about your date after the first date. This formula, so some of the rhetoric that's on the red pill rhetoric, they'll be like, keep her waiting. All that kind of stuff. That's artificial, man. Yeah. Like, you know, be a man. Like, if you take her out on a date, you wake up the next morning and you're like, man, I had a really nice time. Text her, I had a really nice time with you. Like, it's weird to wait 3 days. That's weird, bro. Like, some of these guys, this is why I started with my credibility. Because stop listening to single men on how to date. Stop it. Stop listening to single women on how to date. Like, some things are just common sense. Like, if they ain't did it for themselves, how they telling you? Yeah, don't text her for 3 days. Don't call or text for 3 days. Hey, look, I had a really nice time with you last night. Woke up thinking about you. There's nothing weird or wrong with that. Right? Nothing weird or wrong with that. All right? Be normal. Okay?
Plus, it also shows that you were interested, which means that she wants to hear from you. She wants to know if you're still interested.
Yeah, yeah. There's no formula for communicating other than communicating when you want to, men. The ladies, they got all these formulas. Women going to do things a little more complex than we do. Let them. There's no formula to dating other than communicating when you want to. You thought, I texted that morning. Okay, you want to call her now? Call her. Hey, how you doing? Like, don't be weird. Like, just do what you feel. Thank you for watching Inspirational Perspective. If you love this show and you want to see more content like this, you can go right here. And if you like this subject and you want to see much more content that we have available for you, just click the button here. As always, thanks for watching. Be sure to watch the show live, 7 a.m. every Sunday morning on WBON Radio, or you can catch it right here on YouTube or Facebook.com/Coach Linnell Harris. Be sure to hit that like button. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe so we can get more content just like this to you.